You've tuned into The Mountain Gardener with your host, Ken Lane. Gardening, it can be challenging, but with these simple insider tips, you'll reap huge rewards. Now, let's tune into today's Mountain Gardener with Ken and Lisa. And welcome to this week's edition of The Mountain Gardener. Your host, Ken Lane, here every week talking about the landscapes of northern Arizona, officially into autumn. Kind of nice. We're getting into, we can see October. It's right there. And so it's before us. This is one of the most important months of the year for gardening. And you wouldn't think that because, things are kind of overgrown. Flowers are just flopping over the containers. They're spilling over raised beds. The vegetable garden is just going, it's just tired. It's going, I can't produce anymore. The tomatoes are ginormous. The tomatillos are taking over. They're taller than you and I. The zucchinis are as big around as your hands across. It's time to start winding down, cleaning up, and then making sure that you feed everything in the yard, especially those things that are blooming not now, but in the spring. So you're setting the stage now for great fall color and even better spring blooms and spring production. And so there's some certain things that you need to do. And I thought I would share some of those fall tips. What are some things I'm doing that makes a difference? I mean, serious difference in the gardens. Now, first and foremost, this is really hard for you folks in the Midwest. You're going, oh, you've got 8 foot of topsoil. I mean, you've got 8 foot of nutritional substance, humic, and all these decades, centuries, millennia of soil enhancements, and you're gardening in that. You could throw this microphone out in the garden, it would start to grow. It's just too easy. Here at higher elevations of the mountains of Arizona, it's not that way. We've had a little bit of topsoil, millimeters, not feet. And what little was there, your contractor scraped off and gathered up and threw away, basically, to make room for your footers and your driveways and your fences and your patios. And it's just, some of you are gardening in dead soil, or there's no enrichment, there's no value, there's no nutrients there in your soil. You're going to need to replenish that more often here than you do in other parts of the country. This is serious stuff. I would say even more so than the desert. Our monsoonal pattern kind of picks up. We get all this rain. It just picks up what little bit of nutrients there, and it floats downstream and actually goes down to the deserts, down to the plateaus, down off of your property. You're going to need to replenish that more often here to have healthy plants, especially bigger trees, especially if you want rich, thick, full evergreens. If you want blooming anything, you're going to need to fertilize, to plant food that. And let me just define what that is. So I call it plant food, but some of you old timers call it manure, poop in a bag. And I'm not talking about poop. Yes, there's a place for that as you open up your gardens, your vegetable gardens, your flower beds. Yes, I would say top dress with a 2 to 3 inch layer of manures and let it percolate and settle until you're ready to plant next spring. But really what I'm talking about now is, how do I keep my sycamores healthy, big, thick? How do I keep my pine trees, natives, ponderosas, pinyon pines, to my decorative Scotch pine, Austrian pines, Bosnian pines, to my more formal looking spruce trees? Actually, spruce are native. You got Spruce Mountain right here. You could almost walk there from Prescott. Native firs are up there. And so you want to keep those nice and rich and full and thick. The way to do that is to fertilize them. That's also how you keep them healthy. There's a bark beetle or Ips beetle. Actually, there's several types of beetles that eat pine trees, that eat evergreens. Because we're on these huge pine forests or evergreen forest, there's all these bugs that have adapted to go after, and they like the taste of evergreens. They're burrowing into the tips of the Arizona cypress. They're burrowing into the bark of the pine trees, because that's where the nutrients, that's where the moisture, that's where the humidity, that's where life is. And so they've adapted to eating those. You really want to care for them, and you do that by fertilizing. Don't overdo it. And even the natives appreciate a good food at least once a year. And October, if you can fertilize before Halloween, before the end of the month, before the end of October, it is the most important feeding of the entire year. I cannot emphasize that enough. You really need to up your game when it comes to feeding your plants here. And can I just emphasize, for the love of gardening, do not use a 10-10-10 synthetic fertilizer. Stop using chemicals out in the yard. When you don't have a lot of topsoil, the plants will respond great to it, but you will vaporize your worms, mycorrhizal colonies, all the good stuff in the soil. They despise chemicals. They want an organic food. I'm going to try not to get on my soapbox. This is so important because the mountains, the way we are, the way our topsoil is, and how alkaline, and all the gardening that we have here, it is more important than other parts of the country to use organic plant foods. Now, I'm such a believer in it. I've created my own. I kind of like the science. What makes plants grow? What enhances the soil richness of your landscapes? There's an art to it. There's a science to it. And I like that science and that art. And so we've created an all-purpose plant food, a 744 all-purpose plant food. It's cottonseed meal and some bird guano and some sulfur iron, some things to it. And then we've got a completely organic, like it's just pelletized meals, like meat meal and feather meal and bone meal. It's pelletized for the vegetable and berry, grapes, fruit trees. We call it fruit and vegetable food. It's a 6447. So if you're eating plants, if you're harvesting plums, if you're having apples, you're bringing off your berries. I've got huge grape production this week. I don't know what to do with all the grapes. There's so many clusters. It's made for that kind of production. And then it's got 6%, 7446. Is that right? 6447. Sorry, 7% calcium. I get them all mixed up. Calcium is what brings out the flavor, the richness, the size of your edible plants, whether it's a tomato or an apple or a grape or a berry or pomegranate. It's made for that. And it's made for this elevation for us. It's pelletized. The science is all put together. Just spread it. Pray for rains and snows and irrigation that's going to come over the next seasons, and your plants will be set for an eruption of blossoms next spring. So the plants are using food this time of year over the next few months. It's going to use that food to form next spring's flower buds and leaf buds. That's why it's so important. If you want lilacs, forsythias, flowering quince, if you want beautiful, whether it's a native Oregon grape or mahonia, you need to fertilize now for that spring growth, for that spring blossom. If not, the flowers will be small, emaciated, if it blooms at all. And so they should be striking. They'll be full. There's so many flowers you can't see the foliage. That's the way a spring shrub should be. Your spring blooming thing should be. And so we created the 744 all-purpose food. Cottonseed meal makes things more acidic. It's also what makes flowers bigger and bolder. Of course, bird guano. There's nothing better than bird poop in a bag, pelletized, so it's easy to spread. You add a little bit of iron and sulfur because we know we're trying to counteract our water, which is a serious issue. If you're new to the area, I got a whole class on just gardening for newcomers, how to deal with the water, the sun, the wind, the lack of soil, of actual dirt. Gardening, some of you have rocks and clay and caliche, but you don't have soil to garden in. So I go over class on that. But the main thing it starts with, just fertilize. Don't use water solubles now. You need a granulated, slow release organic food. And I would suggest it's worth making a trip, come to Watters, come over the hill. It's worth the trip from Sedona, Cottonwood. Just come down and get a bag or 2 or 3 or 5 of 744 all-purpose plant food. If you just generic evergreens or blooming lilacs or blooming crepe myrtles or rose of Sharon's, whatever it is. And then if you're into edible organic gardening, you want to control that produce yourself, the 6447 all kind of tomato and vegetable fruiting food is your go-to. Can't emphasize that enough. A lot in store for you, but we got your garden questions coming up with Lisa Watters Lain right after this.
Watters October companion plants that grow well together are blaze maple, burning bush, spicy mums, and glamour kale.
Few flowers are more elegant in fall than Watters Glamour Kale.
The autumn colors are perfect for containers, beds, and borders.
And it's so easy to grow.
This unique Prescott selection is an award winner for cold hardiness, intense red, purple flowers in a frilly package.
You'll find bright fall flowers here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. And we are back with Lisa Watters Lain in the studio. She comes each week with your garden questions. Just what are others struggling, looking for, trying to figure out? And you can learn. I mean, gardening is learned by making mistakes. And if you can learn from someone else's mistake, that's the best. So we try to share that over the airwaves through the podcast with local gardeners. Welcome to the studio, Lisa.
Thank you. Good to be back.
It is good to be back. So good news.
Yes.
Our grandson just got his FFA jacket. He just he's in Texas. He just was able to quote the creed and kind of, he's really into the agriculture thing. So, which is kind of, he's a brainiac person. So he's technical kind of stuff. So he's really adapting. We're so proud of him. Oh my gosh. I mean, FFA jacket, that's like a Letterman's jacket for ag. It's like really prestigious, very good stuff.
Yes.
Proud of him.
I'm proud of him. He's a good kid. They came out for a short visit and he quoted the creed to us. He did it to you and then to me separately.
Yeah.
And I even asked him, I'm like, well, what does that mean? I actually questioned him. Yeah. And he had good answers.
He is a teenager, so you know you get short, curt answers and no emotions and no smile. But very engaged.
He's a good kid.
Yeah, great kid.
Yeah.
Anyway, garden questions.
All right.
What are we talking about?
Larry has a question. He says he lost a pinyon pine. He's not sure why it died. But what can he put in place of it? Yeah. And then his other question is, can he put it in the exact same spot?
Yeah, Larry. So I don't know what happened. Pinyon pines do have a scale that gets on them, so they age out. They don't live as long as maybe some ponderosas or some of these others, or an Austrian pine or some of these others. So it can be short-lived. So, once they fade, there's no coming back. And they take a long time. Once if scale get to them, they can die over years. They get horrible looking. So take a chainsaw to it, clear it out. Now, going back to his question, can he plant in the same spot? No. It's best because as roots rot or decompose, they taint the soil to keep other plants from rooting in that same spot. It's kind of a forest's way of spacing itself out consistently over the millennia. And so, but you can be just off of that. So what I would do is just cut that trunk down just at soil level, kick some dirt over it so you can't tell it's there. I would go off maybe 4, 5, 6 feet away from the trunk and kind of position it, start digging a hole. And if you go there, you're just off enough where you're not surrounded by all of the roots. If you happen to get one root coming through that spot, you can shift a little bit or just take a Sawzall and cut it out of there and plant. But I would plant a little off rather than that one spot. And I would recommend, if it was a pinyon pine, don't put another pinyon in there, because if it was scale, it'll come right back. Go with an Austrian or a Scotch, or go with an Arizona cypress. There's so many other choices that are really good and longer lived than a pinyon pine. And I just don't want that same thing to happen again. And Larry, you should come talk to us, because if you lost one in your yard, it is highly likely that the other pinyon pines are also being stressed. So you might bring a quick sample, put it in a Ziploc baggie, because we don't want to spread anything to our stuff. But we could take a quick look at it under the microscope and tell you, oops, yeah, that is scale. Here's what you need to do. So I'm recommending right now, fertilize all the natives and add tree and shrub drench. It's a bug preventer that you put on, especially pine trees or evergreens. Can really help you. It sounds like you need that. I just don't want you to lose another one. But come talk to us. We've got a planting guide. We can help you. Pick another one. You can recover pretty quick. We've got some really big Austrian pines, which is like a long needle, beautiful pine. It'd be a great replacement for that. So come see us, Larry.
Okay. Next question is from Renee. She has a wildflower bed That's looking pretty worn out right now.
Okay.
Question is, can she cut it back already? Is it a
Yeah.
good time to cut it back? Do you leave the dead blossoms just laying? Do you rake them up? And then also, is it a good idea to fertilize in the fall?
Yeah, Renee, great question. So, wildflower bed. So, generally, I would recommend leaving it intact because you've got the birds are migrating. They're on their migration pattern right now, and they'll use your backyard, that wildflower patch. You can greatly help the seed source for migrating birds is a great help. They'll come and rest in your backyard, camp out for a couple days, kind of take a little meal, and then take flight and take off again. So if you can at least wait until the migration pattern's over, you can actually help sustain. I mean, we can help nature in our own backyards with a wildflower patch. Now, if you just can't do that, you're going, I just don't like it. I want the weeds gone. Uh, it's best to let the flowers dry because they're setting heavy seed counts right now. You could probably start harvesting some of those seed and store them for next spring. So usually you'll take those and plant those again next January, February. Or you can do what I do. You just take a weed whacker and just whack them all back, or a mower, just mow them all back and let the seeds set where they're at, and they'll just self-perpetuate itself very, very easily. So either way, if you don't like the rake and the messing, if it's an area where you need it cleaner, neater, rake it up and harvest the seed yourself and then spread them back in January. If it's a space where you can just kind of let it, weed whacker, just let them all fly and they spread in a meadow effect, do that. Now, going back to Renee's question, should I fertilize? Absolutely. A good wildflower patch, or a good perennial patch. So good wildflowers are perennials. They come back every year. They're greatly going to benefit because they're going to hibernate underground through winter, kind of rest there. They're going to start coming back in January, February. You'll start to see, asters and things starting to emerge. Echinaceas will start to come up, and they would greatly benefit from that fall fertilizer. I'd fertilize your wildflower patch twice. I would do it now, as soon as, kind of, maybe not now, but as soon as you whack it back, fertilize it right then. So it might be the end of October. So any time then is fine. And then I would do it again right as you start to see the new seedlings coming up, or the reemergence of your perennials. Usually that's going to be the first part of March. Fertilize it with the 744 all-purpose plant food. That's going to be a good one just for flowers. The cottonseed meal on that fertilizer is great for flowers. And it's got bird guano. That just makes everything grow fast, especially in spring, helps things root out fast. You'll get better growth with that. But that's probably how you're going to do that. You could also, if you just want to inject, I want more red. I want some more red poppies. You could do that again, starting at the beginning of the new year. So January, February is your time to spread those seed out there. And so you save some, you add some, you can have some real fun with wildflowers. And they are wild. They just do their own thing without a lot of work. They're just so easy. So we've got a couple big patch out here. We've got a couple roadrunners, husband-wife team. They like hunting down in here. I'm sure they're getting snakes and lizards and all kinds of stuff. So anyway, that's all we've got time for this segment. Lisa, thank you very much. Lisa Lain with the Mountain Gardeners. Right back after this. Watters October companion plants that grow well together are blaze maples, spicy mums, glamour kale, and burning bush.
Watters compact burning bush is a neat, well-behaved shrub prized for its blazing red foliage in the fall.
Looks great when planted with autumn gold sumacs, lilacs, and gold euonymus.
At 6 foot, this bush makes a natural hedge that burns red through autumn.
You'll find the showiest shrubs here at Watters Garden Center.
Siri, give me directions to Watters Garden Center.
So I had a record. Berries, blackberries, raspberries, grapes of all colors. I've got an entire fence line of just nothing but berries and grapes. And it has been blockbuster. I've never seen anything like it. It has to be all that moisture we had this last fall. There are bigger clusters, more clusters, bigger berries, more berries. And I thought I would just share, what am I doing to have such a great production? So some folks struggle. Their grapes are smaller than they're used to, or there's less of them, or less berries. And I would say there's if you're wondering, let's start with berries. If you're starting with berries, start with blackberries and boysenberries. They're kind of the most consistent I find. Then you go to raspberries, gold, red, black. And then what else? Those are kind of, and then blueberries. Blueberries, I struggle a little bit. They don't get as large. The bushes aren't as large and the berries are smaller. I think it has to do with the alkalinity of the water, makes it more difficult. But when you do get them, they are the sweetest thing. They melt in your mouth. My mouth's watering just thinking about them. So, but blackberries, there's just so many big, gigantic berries. The secret with berries is all about food, and about pruning. So, the berry plants have been putting on tremendous new canes. These are brambles. They're big plants. They need space. You got to respect them. I tend to prefer thornless blackberries. I have a small yard, a half acres, what I'm gardening on a half an acre, and they can quickly take over a big space where you're kind of walking by them. They kind of grab you. Well, I'm not having that. So there are thornless series of blackberries, and they produce just as well, if not better, than their thorned varieties. And so I've just gone to all thornless varieties of raspberries and blackberries. And so that look for that. I'm pruning those back right now. No, actually, not now. I'm encouraging the new canes to grow. So I know I've been picking off the berries off of certain canes. And those are the ones I'm going to actually prune those back probably in winter, if not sooner. So the canes that are producing fruit right now, note to self, mark them, put a string, put a piece of bird tape is what I do to keep the birds off, and go, oh, that one I'm going to prune back here at the end of the year. And I do. The ones that are not producing right now, but they're growing so aggressively, they've put on 10 feet. Those are the ones that will produce fruit next spring and summer, basically. And they flower in the spring, produce fruit in the summer and fall. Those are the ones I'm going, okay, so pruning. I'm noting which ones are producing, which ones are just growing, so I know what to prune, and then I'm fertilizing regularly. And so I'm fertilizing probably every other month with the fruit and vegetable food. I make a special organic food. It's great stuff. It really produces heavier fruit count and larger fruits, whether it's an apple, a plum, a peach, a cherry, or a berry. It's the one you want to use. And so I'll sprinkle that on there. And the most important feeding of the entire year, as soon as you get done picking all those berries, fertilize it with the 6-4-4-7 all, fruit and vegetable food. That's the most important feeding. It's going to use that to kind of hibernate and store a lot of food down at the root structure. And that's what it's going to use to really produce heavy blossoms, which means more fruit for you next spring. Grapes, similar. They don't quite, because they're such deep rooted plants. So grapes have a root structure go down easily 3 feet, if not more. I don't know how far they go. They got roots that go right down. And so they'll to be consistent with fertilizing, fall and spring are your most critical for good heavy grape count. But right now they're producing. We're harvesting the grapes off of, whether it's a table grape, that's what I'm using, or growing, or whether it's a vineyard type of grape, so higher sugar count. Still delicious, but smaller, not as, anyway, table grapes, what I'm producing. Those are coming off right now. So they start to harvest those usually into August, September, first part of October. This is kind of August, September is when you're harvesting lots of grapes. There'll be a wave of them. And so they've produced a lot of, again, long tendrils, lots, big, long vines coming off of grapes. You want as long of vines as you can, because the more foliage you get, the more sugars it can create, the more fruits it can produce. And so I've got mine grown on a 6-foot cedar fence. My vines, my grapes are growing up about 6 feet. And then I have them going off in a T shape down the fence line. And so that's the more foliage, the better. And so as soon as I'm done kind of harvesting all of those grapes, I'll fertilize them with the 6-4-4 all-purpose plant food. Again, October is a really critical time to fertilize anything you're going to harvest any kind of fruit, whether it's a fruit tree, a grape, a pomegranate, a fig, or a grape berries kind of stuff, it is critical to fertilize this next month or so. And then I'll prune that back. Usually I'm kind of lackadaisical about it. I've got a lot of time to prune my grapes. I will prune off pretty much most of the new cane growth, the new vines that came out. That goes right back to basically, I've got my main trunk under the top of the 6-foot cedar fence. Or if you're a 5-foot fence or 4-foot, go to the top of the barbed wire, whatever that is, and then tee off of that. And then you're going to encourage new vines to come off of that next spring. That's it's going to come off of that. And so the more new growth you get, the better off you are with those grapes. So there's a lot of heavy, aggressive pruning, more so than you do with other varieties of edible plants, more so than trees, berries. I guess figs get pretty close to that. You're really aggressive on figs, but you're going to prune back most of that cane growth or grape vine growth, probably January, February, March, somewhere in there. They're not going to start growing till the end of March, April. And so I've got plenty of time. So I just kind of leave it alone as it turns fall color. It will actually take some of those sugars and store it down in the structure, the root structure. And then it will use that food and that new root growth to force new flowers next spring or next new vine growth on the grapes. That's kind of how you do it. Really consistent with the food. The two most important feedings for grapes by far are October and March. Fertilize real heavily with that organic fertilizer, the 6447 all-purpose plant food or fruit and vegetable food. Now that'll be consistency with that. And then you're watering that. I treat it like a tree. I actually have it on my tree irrigation. I water it once a week, and it just makes it really happy. Big clusters of grapes coming off of that. Thick, juicy berries. Again, the berries and the grapes are on the same irrigation system as my trees and shrubs. I've been watering those once a week throughout the growing season. I just scaled it back to every 8 days. I'll go back to every 9 or so after I've picked all the harvest off. So there's no fruit left on them. I'm starting to see some fall color show up at the end of October or so. I'll start to scale back and let things go dormant for the winter season. That's kind of how I do it. You can do the same thing for figs, for pomegranates. What else grows like that? Currants, gooseberries are very, very similar types of harvesting and trimming. You're going to trim most of those or prune on those, most of them, kind of late winter, early spring. So don't be in a hurry unless they're just in the way. Then you can cut them back. But generally, I'll let things kind of do their own thing till after the new year, after all the holidays are done. Then I'll start pruning. I'll get kind of bored. I go, I want to be outside. I am tired of sipping tea and eating cookies. I've put on my winter 10 pounds and I just want to be outside. I'll go out and start slowly modifying the soils, pruning things back. You've got a big window to do that with. Anyway, that's how you harvest grapes, berries, and take care of them for a better production in your backyard. Be back with more right after this. Watters October companion plants that grow well together are blaze maples, burning bush, Arizona creeper, glamour kale, and spicy mum.
Watters Spicy Mums are best sellers for super long bloom times and local garden tuck.
Spicy mums glow yellow with a halo of fiery orange around each daisy flower.
These big, bold perennials are perfectly shaped and add color in autumn when few flowers are in peak blooms.
You'll find bright fall flowers here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. We are back with Lisa Watters Lain. She comes in each week and just shares her garden insight, just a different gardener's perspective, a softer, prettier, actually longer experience. You grew up in the family business around plants your entire life. I kind of married in after college kind of stuff. And so we've been doing this together now for 32 years here at Watters Garden Center. Seems like only yesterday.
It does.
Hopefully it'll be another 32 years. I don't know. Maybe not. We'd like to travel more. So we're
We
liking
would.
grandkids.
It
There's
is
a
fun.
lot to do.
There is a lot to do. Like replant your containers
Oh,
for fall.
Yeah, is that the
You like
topic?
my
Sorry.
segue?
I was thinking about, gosh, there is a lot. We do have a lot. Oh my gosh. Rabbit hole.
Yeah, pretty much. So, yes, now is the time to start looking at your containers and going, you know what? The vinca's done. The petunias are done. The geraniums are done. It's time to start thinking about those fall, making them very pretty fall containers.
I like fall. We picked our pumpkins.
Yes.
We're decorating out the front. It's like a decoration season. So,
Mhm.
and that goes for your containers. You can decorate, kind of take some of the old, rangy, overgrown. They're getting too big. They're out of control. They've gone
Mhm.
wild, and kind of decorate them, make them pretty.
Definitely. So, some of the really fun ones to use this time of year, of course, are chrysanthemums. It is chrysanthemum season. Thing about like them is they are very long lasting blooms. I mean, a long time, easily up to almost Christmas.
Yeah.
So the big blooms that kind of fade, you trim them back, and there's usually 2 or 3 other sets of blooms ready to come out. They come in so many different colors. You get the whites, I love the oranges and the reds
Well, it
and the
screams autumn
apricots
or
and
Halloween or the holidays.
they also come in purple,
This is
though. They
red and
get
orange or
purple.
something.
This one's called Miranda Orange, if
Ooh,
you're
it's cool.
watching. Very pretty. It has like a dark outer petals, so it looks very dark before it opens. And then it has like this orange glowy color once it's all the way open.
As a man, I would describe it. It's a red flower that opens up to be orange. There you go. So red buds.
Okay, if you want to make it easy, you can certainly do that. The one thing, and they also make very nice perennials. So you can move it to someplace else in your yard if you want it, or you can just leave it in that pot and have it be a late summer, early fall bloomer for next year.
We should let folks know that mums, mums are not just mums. You want to buy your mums. If you're a gardener, you're tuned into a garden show. You're a gardener, in case you're wondering. You want to buy your mums from a garden center because they're going to grow their mums outdoors and they'll be acclimated. They'll be garden mums, and so they're used to our water, our sun. A lot of the mums you see they're greenhouse grown. They're not grown outdoors. They're just made to be pretty, and they're made to throw away. They don't transfer, or the likelihood is very minimal that it will survive through the winter. And if it does, the flowers they never will be as nice as they are. They just won't be as nice in the ground as they are in a greenhouse.
Sure.
You want to buy a garden mum like this. What was the name of this one again?
Miranda Orange.
Miranda Orange or Miranda Yellow or Miranda. I'm sure there's a ton of Mirandas. Pick your favorite color and then go plant it in the yard. You'll be happy as a gardener.
Right. Great thing about the chrysanthemums is they're really cool planted with all those other spring flowers.
True.
So this is a pansy. Sorry, almost lost. I wanted to call it a petunia there for a minute, but it's a mammoth pansy, and this one's in the orange color.
Yeah.
What you can't see it if you're not vlogging, but that's true. It's such a pretty combination for fall. You get kind of that dark orange and the lighter orange. If you want to mix it up, throw a yellow pansy in there.
Living on the edge.
This one has a burgundy face to it. With these are the majestic pansies. So this one has a burgundy face with the yellow on the outer. Very, very pretty, long lasting. So your pansies are going to bloom all winter long. So really nice to have that color out there, just to brighten as you're coming in. Some of the other things that you can mix with how many hands do you have, dear?
I'm trying to help you here. For those folks watch Spotify and Apple and YouTube, they get to see the video version of this.
So so pansies. The other thing that's blooming right now that you could easily throw in are violas. So violas are a little bit smaller.
Yeah, it's pretty
bloom than the pansies, but boy, they make it up in quantity because they just bloom. But sometimes it's nice to mix some color, some just green foliage color with it. So this is an ornamental kale, or actually this one's the cabbage, I think. Yes.
Cabbage are the same.
They're kind of the same. They look a little different, but they're ornamental. So they're not one you're going to grow to eat necessarily, but just really unique color. So this one has a very purple center to it with a green outer. It's really nice to plant because it gives you a contrast color. So it's not just all green, not just all bloom. It gives you a contrast. The other one that I really like to use as a contrast plant is the Dusty Miller. Dusty
pretty.
Miller has kind of a white, silvery color to it. Great thing about Dusty Miller is it just keeps going.
It thinks it's a perennial. We saw that as an annual, just meant to grow for a year and then it's done. But it goes on and on. And
it just keeps going on and
it
on.
It grows bigger and bigger and wider and wider.
Almost to the point where you're like, same with grape. I'm just tired of this thing. I'm going to rip it out and start over. But just a super little, takes the cold and really just doesn't care.
Animals don't eat it because
it's fuzzy. So just a really nice one to mix in contrast with things. So putting it with your pansies or putting it with the mums gives you a really nice, isn't that nice? A really pretty little container there. You could mix in a ornamental grass with that, or like the red sedge grass in your container as well, to give yourself some height in there. The other things that we have right now that are going to do terrific for those planters are snapdragons. Definitely snapdragon season. The thing I love about snapdragons is they make a tall variety. But then they also have come up with some shorter ones that don't get so leggy. They don't take over your pot, but do just as well. And just have a huge variety of colors.
You can actually have a beautiful design that looks fantastic even through the snows of January, February. It keeps going. Pansies love that kind of stuff.
They do.
So come take a look at that. Well, Lisa, thanks for coming in and sharing. I know you got some other plants like heuchera, coral bells.
You'll have to come to the class and see what I've got.
Okay, Ken and Lisa Lain, the Mountain Gardeners. Be right back after this.
Prescott Blaze Maple is the fastest local tree with brilliant red foliage.
Prescott Blaze maples grow 3 feet each year. That's fast.
Prescott Blaze maples are perfect for patios or any place a shade tree is needed.
We have a limited number of huge, instant Prescott Blaze maples.
The maples are brighter in Prescott at Watters Garden Center.
Or shop online at top10trees.com. There's a kind of a checklist that I use this month. In autumn, basically sometime in October. It's a big window. By at least before Thanksgiving. And really, I try to get these things done before Halloween. So in the month of October is your sweet spot because the weather's so nice. It's so pleasant to be outdoors. I mean, it's just a good time to be gardening. And it makes a few tips now, makes it exponentially more effective gardening for the season to come. So plants will go through winter better. You'll have better spring growth. It'll just be easier for you. And I always start with manure of all things. I know it's just kind of weird, but I'm trying to put my manures on now so that there's time to percolate. I find folks in spring, this is when we mainly sell manure in the spring, but I find it does better when I do it now. So as soon as I get an open spot, as soon as I pull those tomatoes, cucumbers, eggplants, as soon as they get vaporized and I'm pulling those things out, I'm trying to clean things up so that the soil's exposed to cold, to the winter. And then I'm trying to put my manures on so that they have time to simmer and kind of percolate down into that garden soil. I may not till them in yet, but I'm at least putting a 2 to 3 inch layer of manure on top of that flower or vegetable bed. If you're adding some organic manures out there, that's the time to do it. The benefit's going to be it mitigates some of the salt buildup. So especially if you're using raw horse, poultry, you've got access to goat poop or whatever, that's heavy in salt. They haven't quite necessarily been broken down yet or composted. And so they're real high in nitrogen and very high in salt, which can damage new seedlings in spring. If you put it down a season ahead, it mitigates all that. And so just emphasize it to go enough. Now, the manure we sell here at Watters Garden Center, because of who we're catering to, we cater to folks that have gardened for a while. They've got some resources and they're driving nice cars. And I could not put any more stinky, gross, disgusting, gooey poop in a bag in some Lexus or Mercedes, the back of brand new $100,000 pickup truck. So we deodorize it. We compost it for an extra season. So it's composted 3 times longer than most other poops. And we blended it with several types of manures and we cut it with some some compost so it doesn't stink. You open up the bag, it doesn't look like poop in a bag, whereas most poop, my skin crawled just thinking about it. This one you do not do that with. So we've got deodorized manure. If in doubt, if you just need a little bit, that's the way to go. If you've got access to free piles of horse or goat poop, go for it. Just make sure it's composted. There's some issues that can happen. So let's start with that, number one. So spread your manures out throughout the yard. Number two, it's time to collect your seed. So if you got wildflowers or zinnias, they're fully seeded right now. If you want to harvest those, now's the time to harvest that and save some for next spring's gardens. Wildflowers are the main one. So I'm looking out the back of my studio right now. I've got this spectacular wildflower patch that's half of its seed heads. It's still blooming really well. And so I'll go out and I'll harvest some of those, or I'll just start whacking them, or I'll weed whack them so that the seed kind of they fly all over the place. And it's a established wildflower patch enough that there's plenty left over for the birds and for next season's flowers. Clean your bird feeders. We are on the migratory path, and it's super important. So some of your backyard birds that you've named, they're going to leave, and they're going south. But there's a whole nother, the birds that are north of us, they're going to use your feeders. They're going to use your yard. They're going to help them to migrate. And so it's kind of an exciting time now through November or so. You'll see a lot of different kinds of birds. And then some birds, they camp out here in winter. Your robins and that kind of stuff. They like the jays. They stay here. And so you want to kind of keep them healthy. Maybe it's time to clean up those bird feeders so that you have this fresh seed, fresh food for them. It's also time to clean your cold frames or greenhouses. Sometimes things build up in there. We haven't been using the cold frames. We've been outdoors, but now it's time to start bringing some of those plants back in. Make sure you're not spreading disease by something carrying over from last spring back. Things can perpetuate. So cleanliness is next to godliness. I know that's not biblical. Don't come back at me. I know it's not actual verse, but it should be. As far as the gardener's Bible, it should be in there. Cleanliness is everything. It keeps the bugs, the disease, things from going south on you and spreading. Winterizing your garden. That's really coming down to your ponds, your bird feeders, your fountains, that kind of stuff. They are not going to like to freeze and thaw. And so to prepare that, I would say take the bird feeder top off, put a decorative one on top of that, or a plastic one, or I sell more glazed saucers as bird bath tops than I do actual bird baths. And so they're using that because they don't absorb the moisture as easily. And if they freeze, they aren't as expensive. So they're not quite as decorative, but they're darn close. So think in terms of, should I have that fountain running in midwinter? No. You want to pull the pump and drain it, kind of prepare it by the end of October or so, middle of November, when we start to get that real serious freeze and thaw. Ponds, you want to make sure that skimmer box is working. Probably time to break out by the end of the month that pond heater, just to keep things from glazing over with ice. Make sure your fish are happy. The birds can have access to the water. There's a lot of reason for that. Keep your trees and shrubs well watered. Don't let them go dry. So it's not time to turn that system off and let things just go for the winter by themselves. Plants don't do that. They do need to be watered at least 2 times a month. Starting November, so when you start to get your first heavy freeze, go, okay, I can scale back my irrigation, but I do need to water plants at least twice a month, especially if you've got a brand new landscape or new plants, new trees and shrubs you're planting this fall. I encourage it. It's time to plant those, but you can't plant them. They aren't fully rooted yet, and expect them to go through all winter with no water. They'll need your help. And so water things at least 2 times a month, starting November through the winter season. It's important. And I find a lot of rookies make that big mistake. You can start cutting back your perennials now. perennial flowers mainly, especially if they're diseased or spotted or they're wilting or they're just going to seed. It's time to cut those things back at your leisure. There's no pressure. Go for it. It's time to clean, sand, oil, sharpen your pruners, your shovels, your picks. It's time you're storing some of those things. Don't keep them out there where they just rust. Get them ready and store them appropriately, especially pruners, especially if you've got a really good pair of pruners. Sharpen and kind of grease and oil them. And then, for the love of gardening, fertilize everything in the yard. I've got a couple different fertilizers. The number one seller is 744 All-Purpose Plant Food. It's the original. It's the one that's been out the longest. 20-pound bag will cover about 2,000 square feet. So the average yard might need 3 or 4 bags. Just go spread it out over the rock. It'll go through the rock and the fabric. It'll just get it out there. And winter, the snows and the rains and the irrigation that you have, that will slowly break it down. It will use that food to store in the root structure. So it will use that next spring. It will use that over the winter to form flower and leaf buds. That's what you get. You fertilize now for spring of next year. And then if you've got pine trees, it is important to care for those, especially native pinyon pines, ponderosa pines. Aphids are going to be thick this spring, this fall through spring. It got cool early, so they're going to go crazy, and bark beetle are going to be active. So treat your pine trees with tree and shrub drench. There's a bug killer. You do not need to be an arborist. You mix it up in a watering can, pour it right at the trunk, and the plant will take it up. It protects, it inoculates. It keeps the bark beetle, the tip borers, the aphids out of your pine trees. They're really pronounced, and you kind of treat those in the fall of the year, and it just protects all that new growth you had this spring. So fertilize and treat with tree and shrub drench your evergreens, especially keep them healthy through winter. That's kind of my top to-do list. I get you a copy of that available at the garden center or next class or something, but that's your go-to top 11 things to do in the yard for a healthier fall, winter, and spring landscape.
Watters October companion plants that grow well together are blaze maple, burning bush, spicy mums, and glamour kale.
Few flowers are more elegant in fall than Watters Glamour Kale.
The autumn colors are perfect for containers, beds, and borders.
And it's so easy to grow.
This unique Prescott selection is an award winner for cold hardiness, intense red, purple flowers in a frilly package.
You'll find bright fall flowers here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. The echinacea have been stunning this last summer through autumn, and they continue to look fantastic. Now, echinacea or cone flower is another name that just say your grandparents called it. Right now, its echinacea has expanded to be so many colors and varieties. They're all a tall perennial. It's just shy of knee high. Got a big flower on it, about the size of a baseball, maybe a little bit smaller than that. This big cone-shaped center to it with petals that come out from there, and they're very bright. They're happy being a wildflower here. They actually spread, will kind of spill down a hillway, and they're good in that animals like javelina and deer and rabbits. They don't eat those, and so it's one of those truly wildflowers that have found ways to defensively keep the animals off of them so they can reseed. Now, for my echinaceas, I'm leaving the seed heads right now and letting them go fully into seed. So I've been deadheading or pinching off the spent flowers so they'll rebloom. They'll just continually bloom for months if you do that. But right now, because I want to help out my feathered friends that are migrating through, are going to spend the winter in my backyard, I'm letting them form a seed, and I'll keep them there. I'll leave them upright, even though they'll turn a little brown by November or so. They'll start to go, when the freezes have got them to where they look brown or straw colored. They won't be in flower, but you'll see where the flower was, and it'll be this tan colored with a dark center to it. They're actually quite striking, even when they're hibernating underground. So the plant itself, a perennial, truly by definition, the roots will hang out underground and will rest. They'll come back bigger and better from that mother plant. That same plant will come back. And then many perennials, or most perennials, if not all, will actually reseed and spread across the yard. So that mother plant comes back from where it was and it spreads across the yard. So it makes babies out there. And then many of the birds will use that as a protein and just a food source throughout the yard. And so, kind of the advice I can give you now is let your flowers go to seed at this point through October and keep them up out there as best you can until you really have to cut them back because they're bothering you, or the snows come and just get them all leaning over and they look kind of mangy looking. That's my cue. Cut them back. And so I'm not in a hurry right now. I'm in a hurry to leave them alone and let them go to seed. So I had this beautiful called a sombrero sangria coneflower or echinacea. It's a bright orangey red. It's like very, very southwesterny. So this beautiful seed head in the center of it with these long petals that come down off of that. We've got yellows and whites. We've even got a pure green. It kind of comes out green and then it fades to this beautiful purple color. So echinacea is a fascinating flower, perennial for here. If you're from California or these more deserty places, you couldn't really grow coneflower very well there. But here, they're almost like a weed. They're just too easy to grow. And that's how you care for them in your backyard. And so it's a good time to plant those, accessorize, add some color in your backyard. You're plenty of planting season left. That's kind of the best time of year to plant out in the yard. Well, throughout the week, Lisa and I camp out here at Watters Garden Center. We do love talking to fans of this show. Watters October companion plants that grow well together are blaze maples, burning bush, Arizona creeper, glamour kale, and spicy mum.
Watters Spicy Mums are best sellers for super long bloom times and local garden tuck.
Spicy mums glow yellow with a halo of fiery orange around each daisy flower.
These big, bold perennials are perfectly shaped and add color in autumn when few flowers are in peak blooms.
You'll find bright fall flowers here at Watters Garden Center in Prescott. For a more fruitful garden, increased success in the landscape that just feels better, then tune in daily to the Mountain Gardener podcast. Subscribe through your favorite podcast streamer or visit wattersgardencenter.com. Better yet, visit me directly right here at Watters Garden Center. Thanks for tuning in.